Before we begin this video, I have to give a huge shout out to my editor Tarkuts because it was his birthday yesterday. You might recognize him for the great work he does with Alois as well, because they've been pumping out some fantastic content while Alois was climbing Challenger in Korea. While we've only been working together pretty recently, he's been an absolute joy to work with thus far and really understands the execution I have for my videos already. So if you appreciate the content we do, be sure to leave him a very big happy birthday in the comments below, and thank you Tarkuts for the work that you do. Now something extraordinary is going on in the LCK and it needs to be acknowledged. Lack of world's trophies aside, Gen G's mid Chovy is displaying an insane level of consistency. He's always been a consistent player, but something very different is happening here, and it may very well be this form that leads him to his first world championship, should they continue to perform domestically, of course. Not only is Chovy leading his team in their perfect split so far, he's deathless in their last 7 games. And on the 8th before that, he only died once, which gives him a KDA of 129 and scoreline for the 7 of 43 kills, 0 deaths, and 64 assists. In these games as well, he played 6 different champions, and it's also not like he just wasn't fighting in these games or playing strictly safe control mages. He's displaying mastery over the Fearless Draft format, with his best performance being this Silas one where he went 13, 0, and 6. Just check out this clip he got versus the Freaks.
Oh, DNF, 07.
Comes through. But they never had to do the Baron in the first place.
Inbound Pantheon.
The Otacon, and the withdrawal comes in. Chovy's very behind them. Berserker is already dead, and that's the biggest issue. Chovy also is just unkillable. They don't have the damage.
Holy Chovy is so clean. What?
And yeah, Piosik's just running away. Yeah,
Find the rat.
Oh? Oh.
Oh! What?
Well played!
What?
Outsmarted! And then Chovy just dashed over the wall.
Yeah, that was a little do-si-do moment.
And Duro missed his hook. And angle. Oh, well, Piosik's already dead. Chovy is just AoEing the enemy team as he is Zonyazing mid-dash, mid-chain.
Oh my
over the
god!
Wall. Dude who had no chance, and Chovy actually takes
Oh
negative
my
damage from him.
god, this series was like...
Chovy has 13
This
kills,
is like
25 stacks,
you're on the other end of this is like retirement consideration
It's
series.
just
You're sitting
over.
there like,
He's
how the
only
can I beat this?
While admittedly a lower table team, pulling these numbers versus any first LCK team is an achievement in itself. But if people thought he could only do it versus bottom tier LCK teams, it's when we analyze graphs like this that you really understand the level of performance Chovy is displaying versus his peers. Like, this doesn't even look like a graph you'd be able to put together on your own pro player builder. It's just unbalanced. Even when you look at it alongside second placed HLE Zeka, who is also very in form, and third placed DK Showmaker, his graph just isn't normal. But the real thing that made me want to make this video, aside from being a huge Chovy fan myself, was this clip he got versus T1 on Victor 2 weeks ago. When I saw this, I was literally wowed.
가야 될 것 같은데? 이것도 괜찮은데? 아, 빅토르가 그리고 앞쪽에 마무시 드리블 크라테 드리블하고 달려 더블리 드리블 야 신발을 팔어 일로 와 고여포 야 너무 세 팍! 그리고 텔로? 이거는 그냥 와서 죽을 건데 어떡해 빅토리 어떡해 야 어떡해 안 될 것 같은데 쟤 보내줘 집 가자 안돼 보내주자고 안돼
Holding. Bard ult on the Lilia. Trap is down. Oh, they tried to proc it with Blitzcrank, but they're gonna get 2 of them. Chovy using flashes up to the right.
This might be the opportunity. This might be the angle. The key is a rainbow.
the double
shot on the Chovy roller. They are able to walk their way out. Still, it's Kane that's on the floor. And now T1, if you kill these two, they are just dead. Chovy, the one that could tank it. TP in there. And Roller, he's got a feather storm, but he does not have his life. Owner goes down. Chovy gets the wall and he gets 2.
That's massive that Chovy's able to get those 2. There's so many standing structures up for Gen G.
I mean, Faker. Chovy gets him. Chovy, you psychopath.
He's got TP, but he's not going to be able to use it here. He's just going to go home.
Oh my god!
Wait, no,
He's got an army of minions. He has has an army of minions and one Nexus Tower between him and a regular season Game 3 victory against T1.
How good's the wave clear now? Alone against Chovy. Not good enough, Atlas.
The seismic shove is going to go wide. If these Nexus turrets go down so quickly, Chovy is going to do it in the most heart-wrenching third game of any regular season of all time. And Shen-Chi will do it.
And the game ends.
Chovy with the
Bro, that was
there.
crazy.
And off the back of that clip, I do also want to pivot and address some of the issues T1 continues to face. But before I explain though, are you happy with your browser? Maybe wish it was more League integrated? Opera GX has the fix. I'd like to introduce you to Opera GX, who has just started their official partnership with Riot Games to become the ultimate web browser for League enjoyers. Their first League integrated feature is the Riot Corner, which allows you to keep up with all things LoL esports related in a way never done before on a browser. Along with a seamless viewing experience, the latest news, and full schedules, there will also be Opera GX specific drops that will be continuous with each Riot event. So stay tuned because there'll always be something new to win. But the Leagueification doesn't end there. Within Opera GX are official League of Legends mods, such as this Lee Sin or Renekton one,
Bombardiro Crocodilo,
that give you custom background music, keyboard sounds, dedicated wallpapers, and themes. Once you've installed one of these, the Riot Corner will become a feature for your Opera GX automatically. And if you were like me and were hesitant to swap web browsers, Opera GX thought of that too with their quick import tool, allowing you to sync all of your settings from your previous browser. To get started with Opera GX, there'll be a link for you in the description, because believe me, you're going to want to give it a try. And a massive thanks to Opera GX for sponsoring this video. When you think of illustrious esports teams, none come to mind before T1. Not only do they house long-term esports icon Faker, they're the most winning League of Legends team and have also built one of the most beloved brands in all of gaming. But if we look at this table of their recent results, the consistently highly placed ones had a common denominator, the top lane prodigy Zeus. I've done multiple recent videos on T1's issues, controversies, and battles over the past few months. So if you're missing context, they'll all be linked in the description in chronological order. And if you aren't up to date, I recommend checking them out because there's a lot of juicy stuff going on. But most of it revolves around the shock top lane swap over between Zeus and Doran at the start of this year. So with that swap over, let's address where they're at now, starting with this clip of Kadril giving his take.
What are T1's problems? That's a loaded question. You know, there's like 3 problems, but a lot of people are focusing on 1, right? Or mostly 2. I think T1 has 3 main problems. Problem number 1 is the Smash Gumayushi issue, where no matter what Smash does, he's gonna get flamed, no matter what Guma does, he's gonna get flamed, and both are carrying so much pressure every game that it's so hard for them to be able to at least breathe. Doran is not giving any good performances domestically. And their drafts are quite bad, you know? This is something that's not discussed a lot. Like, that last game draft was hard. That was a really hard draft to win. I feel like a lot of their drafting is not the best.
In the LCK, there are 10 teams. Member of the Rat Circle on Twitter, Kazra, shared this alarming graph of Doran's Week 3 performance versus other top laners in the league. For CS per minute, he was 8th with 7.95. For damage per minute, he was 7th at 603.9. For gold difference at 15, he was 10th. Being behind the other top laners by 391.1. For CS difference at 15, he was also 10th, being behind the other top by 9.47 CS. And for experience difference at 15, he was 11th, being behind by 255. 11th, by the way, because 7th place KT ran 2 top laners, Perfect and Casting, who he was behind both. Now, while these recent performances aren't completely indicative of his ability as a player, it does highlight the difficulty he's currently facing integrating into this T1 roster. Whether that's the pressure, the change of environment, coaching staff, who knows. I did, however, read a thread about Doran on Reddit earlier that does tie back into his history. It was by user MathematicianMuch205 and says this. Quote, a team with Doran has never beaten an LPL team in a best of 5. They're 0-3. But as soon as he leaves, his former teams are undefeated in best of 5 versus LPL teams at 5-0. And then there's the evidence of those games on your screen. His counterpart Zeus does not seem to be experiencing those problems, however, seemingly not losing any of his previous stride.
Because Kanavi will finally go down. Zeus living for a damn long time, trying to find that kill back onto Jackie Love. Death Dance is there. Viper on a rampage, and Zeus refusing to die. This man's Aatrox is untouchable. Double coming through. HLE looking to finish it with a clean 2-0.
Wow.
In fact, his new team, Hanwha Life, is second on the ladder at 6 wins and 1 loss, only behind the extremely informed Genji we just spoke of, who have a perfect season thus far. T1, on the other hand, is 5th, and while their top laner issues are only half their problems, I can't help but compare certain graphs like this, showing Zeus and Doran's player stats versus the other top laners. I think more than anything, it just reinforces the statistics we spoke of earlier. Now, it might seem like Doran is having a hard time currently, but when we speak on the span of his career, he still has multiple recent LCK titles under his belt with Genji and Hanwha Life. So hopefully we see him return to some of his form with T1 once the issues he's facing at the moment are overcome. But T1's top laner issues are only one side of the coin. The other is the ongoing ADC controversy that got even T1 CEO Joe Marsh involved. Now, I touched on this pretty recently in a video, but there's been a lot of back and forth in the bot lane starting position for T1 lately, and it's caused a lot of controversy. Even as far as getting Joe Marsh called to resign after he basically overrode the coaching staff to allow Gumayusi the starting spot over Smash, who was performing better metrically at the time. And when you see highlights like this from the 18-year-old Smash, you can't help but be skeptical at Guma getting chosen over him.
Yeah,
He doesn't do all the damage, but it results in him going down. And then Smash here.
Yeah. Smash going out, kill unit.
And then also outplaying the King Sante here as well. Great flash at the end.
Oh, man.
So clean, honestly.
After this backlash against Joe, Smash took the starting spot again. Until yesterday. In a Q&A following T1's 2-1 victory over third place DK, Coach Koma and jungler Onar took to the media desk to answer some questions. After some pretty generic questions like what did you do differently compared to last loss and what are your current thoughts, questions on the ADC situation began to be asked, like why did Guma start today? Koma responded with, quote, "At the moment we believe Gumayusi fits the team better. While bot lane is just one part of the whole, after evaluating our team synergy and what's needed to raise our performance going forward, we made this decision." Next, he was asked, how would you evaluate Gumayusi's performance today? To which he said, quote, "He stayed extremely focused throughout all 3 games, and I'm very grateful for that. It's not easy to do that under pressure, especially when you're carrying a lot of responsibility." And lastly, and perhaps the most definitive, will Gumayusi remain a starting ADC? Homer says, "As of now, you can consider Gumayusi our starting player." Now, while the language chosen is barely convincing, alluding to the fact that Guma can be replaced at any time by Smash, saying things like, quote, "As of now," and "at the moment," Guma appears to be ticking the boxes enough to warrant the starting position. But one thing is certain, this type of pressure on their game-to-game performance can't be good for their mental health. Imagine if you were playing and then after every death or misplay that it's potentially costing you your career, especially an ADC as inexperienced, developing, and with the potential that Smash has. This is not the environment to foster and nurture a talent like this, with pressure and a guillotine looming, casting a shadow over T1's other gameplay issues as well. But hopefully now that they seem to have the experience of Guma a bit more set in, they'll start to refine their stride. Although it isn't unlike T1 to underperform domestically and then come in and rinse Worlds. Seeing one of my favorite teams struggle is never a fun time, but they've done it before and they can do it again. Anyway, that'll do us for the day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another news video very, very soon. Bye.